to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And with the only Chris Level, I'm Casey Cowan, back for a Locked On Texas Tech special edition as we dive into voices from the YouTube comments. Got a couple of questions and comments to get to on today's episode, Chris, and we will kick it off with our guy, Patrick Mahomes, who made an appearance in the LBK last week and has got something really exciting going on with the Texas Tech Athletics Department. Of course, there was a story not too long ago about a $5 million contribution to what's going on there with the facilities. But that was sort of only the tip of the iceberg, as then we see an announcement about an NIL arrangement for some specific athletes who will now be branded as Team Mahomes members. So I wanted to get into this question because it was kind of all encompassing as to the things that I am describing. So here we go. This one from our guy, Garrison Rob, who asks this question. What kind of category is Mahomes in as far as former player contributions and support? Garrison offers up a guess saying his own category. I know there have been former athletes, Chris, that obviously have supported the football program or maybe whatever program they happened to play for before. Could you tell us if there's anybody that's even comparable to what Patrick Mahomes has done so far? Is he kind of blazing his own path? And then, of course, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how the Team Mahomes arrangement kind of came to be and how unique this is across the college sports landscape. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, in some ways, he is in his own category. I think it's a bit different than anybody else because he's still so active. A lot of times, like with his career, and has so many years, knock on wood, left to play. You know, I mean, short of an injury or whatever. I mean, he's still, very much in his prime and still very young and has many years left to play. And he's the face of the most valuable, biggest sports league that there is. And this is just, I mean, if we're being honest with each other here, this is just, by all parties, this is just a bit lucky. I mean, no. I mean, you know, that's let's just call it what it is. I mean, nobody envisions this when he left here. There's nobody that thought that this is what the next 5 to 6 years would entail. I mean, he left here in what was it, like 17, I guess, ish, somewhere around in that time frame, and he's won 3 Super Bowls. He's been an MVP. He's the face of the league. I mean, the best quarterback in the league. He's the guy, if you're starting any franchise, he's pick number 1. I mean, on and on it goes. And he's had such a personal stake into Texas Tech and their future, their current, their everything.
Yeah.
He's the biggest reason for the Adidas deal. I think the Adidas folks at the kickoff luncheon that were there late last week, indicated as much. And there's a lot of things that come with this 10-year agreement. And it's just a nice, ace in the hole for Texas Tech to have, because what Pat wants, Pat gets. And not that he's demanding or demeaning or anything like that. I mean, I just think he wants to do right by his former, football program and his alma mater and all those things. And this is his way of giving back, and he's doing it financially, but also I think he facilitates this deal, which is so helpful to the athletic department in so many ways, not just financially, but with branding and with all that. And it's just, I guess the word would be synergistic. There's so much synergy, and I think Pat has even indicated as much between the 3 brands, his own, the Double T, and the 3 Stripes. And that's why you're seeing all those next to each other. But I would be remiss if we didn't say, I don't know if Pat has done as much as Cody Campbell has.
Good point.
I mean, Cody Campbell has former player under Mike and John Sellers, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Both of those guys played for Mike and the Double Eagle guys, and Cody deserves an enormous amount of credit for financially, and then he gives of his time, and he's I mean, he's in the trenches with this NIL and Matador Club and trying to run his own business, but trying to help run the business of what Texas Tech is doing it from a Board of Regents seat.
Mm-hmm.
Has come out of pocket a lot of money. And don't just look at the quote unquote $25 million donation that he gave toward the South End Zone. There's a lot more of those kinds of things that he's been involved with that he wouldn't want any credit for. But I think that you're lucky to have people like this so invested in not just Texas Tech, but specifically in this case, football. But I would say those two guys are different than anybody I'm aware of. I think John Sellers belongs in that conversation as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's probably where the conversation stops as far as former players go. And you don't want to short anybody. I'm sure there's so many people that have done different things over the years.
Yeah, and some not as public or as visible as well.
Yes, absolutely. But nobody to this magnitude. I mean, Cody's company and Cody's involvement at the time when college athletics was changing as much as it was, you're just lucky. I don't know any other way to say it. And I think that Pat hitting his stride with the NFL and being in his prime and having a deal, a brand deal with a company like an Adidas, and then, the Super Bowl wins and all that, it just kind of all coincides, and you just get a little lucky with the timing of a lot of this. And ultimately, Texas Tech is the winner. And they've been able to put this football program and this institution athletically in a pretty good spot. And you're a lot fortunate than most. So many people have people like this at their department or program or school or whatever it may be, but you these two guys, and I include John in that, so these three guys, they've just gone above and beyond in many ways. But Pat's situation is just so unique, and I think that I didn't touch on the branding thing. I think Ludwig Oberg, however we say it, which is the correct way because I've had it pronounced to me multiple different ways, but I guess they say Oberg on all the PGA telecasts. He's an Adidas guy. That's not by, shouldn't be a surprise. There's reasons for that. I think as you start to have players transition into the professional ranks, I think Caleb Dean, with Wes's track program, inked a pretty salty track and field deal with Adidas. So this is going to pay dividends for your future athletes and guys that go on to, and Pat's just kind of the catalyst there for all of this.
Man, just amazing to consider. And what'd you think about the Team Mahomes specific arrangement, representing a variety of sports here on campus? Football, softball. I think you had a men's golfer, you had a soccer player, you have a baseball player. I'm sure just kind of the tip of the iceberg for that as well. But what do you know about kind of how that agreement came to be? And is there, I don't expect you to have your finger on the pulse of every NIL arrangement all across the country for every athletics department, but can you think of anything similar that you've seen announced elsewhere with kind of an individual athlete? And of course, there are only so many NFL MVPs or best quarterbacks going currently, so it's kind of hard to duplicate that if you don't have that type of guy. But this seems pretty unique, to say the least.
Yeah, because I just don't think people grasp, Pat is a corporation. His, he signed a $500 million contract, but I think there's people that will tell you that what he's doing endorsement wise with Adidas and the insurance companies that he's on and just all the things, he's doing extremely well. I mean, extremely well. We'd all, it's like Oprah, like, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car, you get a car. It'd be so fun to be able to be involved in something like this, but I don't know how these particular athletes were selected. Micah Hudson makes a lot of sense. I think Pat and Micah actually built a bit of a relationship during the recruiting process. I think there was some, back and forth along the way, according to Micah after he had signed. And soccer is always going to be a part of this this equation because Pat's wife, Brittany, was a soccer player in college, and that it's and they have the soccer team in Kansas City, part ownership in that, or I don't know if they're full owners or part owners, whatever, but soccer is a big part of her athletic background. So it's always going to be a part of things here. I don't know how they picked the certain athletes and all that. I mean, basketball was noticeably not included in this group or anything.
Yeah.
But these particular players will be a bit different. I mean, Nyjah Kennedy, the softball player, that makes a ton of sense. She's a high profile athlete. So there's some thought that goes into this, but I don't, you're right. I'm not sure of any other scenario out there like this. And it's pretty fascinating. And if I'm being honest, I don't really know what all it means. I am led to believe that I think when this deal was agreed upon, Pat had indicated that personally that there would be some financial, and so I don't know if part of the agreement is I'm going to donate some money, but I'm also going to ensure that as part of this deal that myself or Adidas or a combination of both will NIL certain athletes, which may be the case here. I don't really know, but it would make some sense that a lot of these particular ones, because I think the soccer player, she is I think she's the one that's hurt. You may correct me if I'm wrong there. I think maybe out for the year. I hope I'm not talking out of turn. And that's been released. I don't know if I have the right player. I think this is who we're talking about. I think she's on the U.S. under 18 team. So just, it's all in front of her and all those things. So anyway, long story short, it's pretty cool setup. And I think that it's just a sign of the times, I guess. And it's a bit outside the box, but you're taking advantage of your situation as any other institution or brand apparel deal would be trying to do. And it just fortunate enough that Texas Tech is the one that gets to do this.
Certainly will not be. I like to be the first in many areas to set a trend here or there as an athletics department, but not going to be the first to apologize for being lucky. So that's just fine. If that's all it's wrapped up into is some really fortunate timing, not going to apologize for that. Good on Patrick Mahomes and Brittany Mahomes and all those who combined to make this possible. And hopefully will really pay some dividends for Texas Tech as far as appealing to future and prospective athletes as well. Let's get a little bit closer to the football program, Chris. I had a question I wanted to wrap up today's YouTube conversation about a certain player that I think, maybe a little bit off your radar, but on some others. And obviously from a West Texas perspective, or even sort of a smaller classification, smaller town perspective, this guy really interesting. Was not off the radar whenever it comes to those types of outlets and things like that when you're talking about high school football not too long ago. But this question I want to get to, number 2. First, today's episode brought to you by Ultimate College Football Head Coach. Locked On Texas Tech fans, I want to take a moment to give you a heads up on a brand new mobile game that I think you're going to love. It's Ultimate College Football Head Coach. In this amazing game and simulation, you get to step into the shoes of a head coach and lead your college football program to glory. Can you imagine actually being the head coach of the Red Raiders? From recruiting players, hiring coaching staff, to overseeing training camp and handling school scholarships, you control every crucial detail of your program. It's all in your hands. Think you can handle the pressure? Find out today. And even better, Ultimate College Football Head Coach is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline, so you can play on the go as you want and when you want. And of course, we've got a special offer for Locked On Texas Tech fans. Use our promo code LOCKEDONCFB. That's LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost for your program. Make sure you take advantage of this perk, as it's going to help your team get off to a strong start. To download the game, just visit ultimate-cfb.com. That's ultimate-cfb.com, or find it in the app stores, and kick off the ultimate football experience with Ultimate College Football Head Coach now and begin your coaching legacy today. This question I want to get to, number 2, from our buddy Emmett Minnick. Sorry if I'm not saying that correctly, who says, "Hey, Chris and Casey, have y'all heard anything about preferred walk-on Adam Hill out of Albany through fall camp? Dude was a beast. in high school. This is a guy I was somewhat familiar with, Chris, and of course have just been wondering maybe which side of the football he might slot in on for Texas Tech, either as a ball carrier or maybe a defender. What do you know about Adam Hill? And it may be a little early to ask this question, but maybe not. Do you think he has a chance to stick and or even make an impact sooner rather than later?
Definitely has a chance to stick. Yeah, he's. I mean, he's what he's going to be your right now like a fifth string running back, but he's brand new. I mean, he's
Yeah.
been here. I think he was an early enrollee, so he's been here for 9 months or so, and he's going to be somebody that probably shows up on special teams the soonest. But he's just one of those, like, I don't want to overstate it, but a bit of a Texas high school football legend.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the reality of some of the things that he did there at Albany at a very small school. But I think it made a lot of news whenever he decided that this is what he was going to do and pursue his career at Texas Tech. And but right now, running back, it's just, I mean, you've got Cameron Valdez and Cam Dickey and Williams and Jacoby Williams, and then obviously Taj, and then Adam Hill fits in somewhere right behind there. But I think he's just a good football player. I mean, a little bit of everything. What do you need? But that's where his natural. So he'll transition as he rolls along, maybe similar to like maybe like a Nehemiah Martinez or Xavier White, where I could see him being like a running back / slot receiver, maybe a returner of sorts as he gets older. But special teams certainly is where I think you could see him sooner than later.
So do you think offensive, that is the future for him? Or
Yes.
because I remember a comment from Coach McGuire talking about, well, he may start out at linebacker, but he was an offensive MVP in the state championship game. And then I guess through camp, he has been a ball carrier.
That's what I think. But as I said, I mean, Jacob Rodriguez is a prime example on your current team where he was kind of an offensive guy the majority of his high school career, did play some safety as well, goes to college as a QB, then transitioned into a phenomenal middle linebacker. So I think you've got some options with a guy like Adam Hill, and I don't know exactly where he lands, but I tend to think it's more on the offensive side because I just think he's really good with the ball in his hands. He's tough and all those things, but injuries or depth charts and all that could dictate it one way or the other. The beautiful thing about a guy like Adam Hill is you would have that choice. Some guys are like, yeah, this is what he is, but there's some versatility here. And I guess as Tim DeRuyter, one of my favorite terms that he uses is position flex. He's got some different things that, that's what you want guys like this on your team because it protects you. If something happens here, he can go there. And if something happens over there, he can go here. And the more guys you have like that, the better off your team is because it's insurance policies, if you will.
Yeah. And, I know, again, this may be sort of off the radar for some, but always going to take an interest in some of these smaller town Texas kids that wind up. And obviously, Texas Tech has been a place that in times gone by have been able to make a little hay with a guy like this. And, you don't always want to just be fishing exclusively in that kind of pond necessarily. But, Chris, I think for a program like Texas Tech, you need to find some guys like this. And who knows what his college career will be. I have no idea. But definitely an interesting name to keep an eye on as we get into the season and obviously as some years go by. So appreciate the question about Adam and appreciate the question about Mr. Mahomes as well. Thanks to those who are mixing it up in the YouTube comments section on the reg. That's one of the best ways to help us grow the show, commenting anything below. So please continue to do that. Chris, appreciate some bonus time from you this week, man. And next time we convene, it'll be a game week. So buckle up. We'll see you then.
Sounds good. And keep the comments coming. We love the questions.
That's right. And get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. For Chris, I'm Casey. Thanks for being out there, and we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.